What's going on, guys? Wally back with another video, and today's video I want to talk about something that has come up recently, a couple conversation points that I've had with a couple people that are in the Destiny community, and I wanted to get your take on it in the community that we have going here. And so today what we're talking about is microtransactions, and are microtransactions beneficial for the future of Destiny? Now, the way microtransactions currently stand is that they're mainly cosmetic, so that you can buy a dance or mask or some kind of shader, something like this, right? This is the general idea of microtransactions moving forward for Destiny so far. Now, I don't have a problem with this model at all, and I think a majority of you probably don't have a problem with this either. I would at least hope so. I think a lot of people like to attribute microtransactions with the devil, and that it's bad, and it's only going to ruin the future of any good game, and so on and so forth. And to some respect, yes, microtransactions do sort of sour the milk to some respect. They take away that beautiful pureness that we enjoy of a game, where we don't have to worry about potentially what these microtransactions are being used for or why they're there in the first place. But I'm going to try to give you an unbiased argument for both sides. So in the upcoming Sparrow Racing League, pod racing, that should be coming out tomorrow morning, the idea with this again is they're going to fund it, and I want to make this very clear. This is at least my interpretation of it. They're going to fund these little projects that they're doing, the live team is putting together, through microtransactions. And the reason it's only coming up for 3 weeks is because they need to see community feedback if it is truly successful. So the way this kind of looks like, at least from my interpretation, is that the budget that they have, they don't have a necessary sustained budget for content post DLC or in between content drops. Now, most publishers and even developers, most publishers will set aside certain amounts of budget, but the developers have to clear it. So in this case, Bungie has to clear amount of budget to be used from Activision so that they can go ahead and create new DLC, new content, whatever. Now, this is the model that EA does, and it may be different for Activision and Bungie, so I'm not 100% sure. But going off the mentality that it makes sense that the developer needs to clear budget through the publisher, or at least get some type of monetary aid to move forward in content, this sort of worries me. And here's why it worries me. The idea here is that if this is true, and I'm not saying that it is, and I want to clarify this, but if this is true, your microtransactions, if you choose to buy into microtransactions, are directly influencing the future of live events or content that we may see on a monthly basis. So the way it stands right now, Iron Banner and Trials, they always come back. Iron Banner comes back once a month, give or take. Trials comes back every weekend. But with new things like Sparrow Racing League, the idea with Sparrow Racing League is it might not come back. Let's say it does very well in terms of player participation, but tanks in microtransactions. If they can't find a reasonable way to fund it, they may not bring it back, or they may not bring it back in the scope that we may like. Now, personally, I think 2 maps is relatively weak, and I think riddling it with microtransactions off of its immediate release is poisonous. But I also understand that this is a company. They have to make money, and to a certain respect, your time and effort is not enough for them to legitimize their business strategy. So you can say that, yes, you've purchased Destiny, Taken King, and all the subsequent DLCs, and you are deserving of this content, which is free, mind you. You're not paying anything extra for this. This is free content. That you are deserving of getting through it without microtransactions. And to an extent, I would agree with that mentality. I think personally that the second you buy a DLC, you get everything in that DLC for free. You should not be nickel and dimed for microtransaction stuff. But post DLC, this is where the sort of mentality changes a little bit, is sort of the gray area. So Festival of the Lost, or Festival of Light, that happened prior to Thanksgiving. The idea here is that this was not Taken King DLC material, hence the usability of that microtransaction nonsense to buy masks or the ability to get extra masks. Now, this is all, again, cosmetic. It has no effect on your playability whatsoever unless, you want it to in some way, but it doesn't affect how well you play. It's just cosmetic. And this is post-DLC. Sparrow Racing League is also post-DLC. So the argument that I would present with this again is that you are not necessarily purchasing this. This is free content pushed to you, and for them to fund it, they have to tack on microtransactions so that they can legitimize a business strategy to continue to do live events. Now, that's not saying that the only way we'll see Sparrow Racing League again is if you buy into it, or as a consumer, or a Destiny regular, or even a Destiny casual that only plays on the weekends, that you have to buy into it to do your part so that it comes up again. That's not necessarily true. If it is successful, I even believe very, very sincerely that if it's very successful, the microtransactions tank, the community clamors for it, it'll come back, because if they've already built it, it makes no sense. And the microtransactions, to a certain extent, will be somewhat successful because everyone wants some kind of unique way to look different in a sort of content drought game like Destiny. And I want to, again, sort of go into this a little bit. It's not a content drought in the amount of stuff you can do. It's a content drought in the amount of things that you can put on in terms of uniqueness. This has always been a problem with Destiny, and it is a compounded problem even with the new transfusion system, which is good. It's still not a replacement for transmog, which is true 100% uniqueness. And that is, again, sort of an issue. So the idea here is that to get unique gear, you, one, have to be playing on the PS4 for that Iron Banner stuff, which is different. It's a completely different topic and not something that I mind too much. But to get unique gear, you have to buy into it via microtransactions. You may only be able to get that certain Sparrow by buying into it, so on and so forth. And I think that that is sort of lame, because the initial Destiny mission statement was that you were building a legend of your own character, your own unique character. And that was the vanilla model. And now the model may be shifting, and I'm not saying it has shifted, but it may, or at least feels like to me, the model is shifting that to be 100% unique, you have to go into microtransactions. And I think it's a poor business model personally. But I understand why they're doing it, because this company has to make money. They cannot just release free stuff, even in sustain mode. Activision may want more out of it. They may want to just ride this thing like they've done with Call of Duty and other series. Now, it's not to say that the publishers here are the bad guys, or the developers are necessarily the bad guys. It's more or less, again, the industry. I think the entire industry is the problem here, and it's not necessarily the consumer's fault, although the consumer is to blame at certain points. We're all to blame because we buy into microtransactions instead of protesting them by not going into them. But again, I want to know what you guys think. I'm okay with it so far. I don't have too much of an issue with it. I'm starting to feel a little peeved by it because of the way they're sort of wording how it works and the sort of how they're launching it with certain things. That's sort of to annoy me a little bit. The fact that they've launched microtransactions with live events as a way to sort of say this is how we're funding them is like kind of saying in a way that you have to buy into them. Not necessarily have to buy into them, but if you want to see more consequence events or you know, subsequent events, you have to have, or there has to be a buy-in from the community. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they're going to continue to work on live content, but it just feels like that's not the case. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know. Are microtransactions good for Destiny's future? Is it something you welcome? Is it something you're against? Is it something you don't want to see at all? Or perhaps are you indifferent? Do you not mind at all? Let me know. You guys are obviously a good fountain of information. It's a good way to gauge where the audience is at, where the community is at in this smaller channel. But I appreciate you guys' support so far, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.